And I'm going to go in alphabetical order. We're going to be introducing the City of Macedonia Mayor race. Obviously, you can only vote for one, and there are two candidates running. Our first candidate is Sylvia Hanneken. Sylvia?
Hello everyone. I see most of you folks every Tuesday, but there are a few people here that don't normally come to Rotary. I'm just going to give you a little bit of the background that I have, and I guess I have 5 minutes. Is that right, David? I'm a longtime resident of Macedonia. I moved here in 1980 with my late husband and my twin sons, Eric and Russell. I've had a long and distinguished career at the Department of Defense, and I've led multiple teams across the 4 services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and I've led them to projects with very successful outcomes. I won multiple awards for management and improvements to member service throughout the military services. After I retired, I looked for opportunities to serve the community, and I did some volunteer work, and I also did some things that were very critical to the city. I volunteered to become the president of the Macedonia Economic Development Committee in 2010. We had a very, very bad downturn, as everyone's aware, and we had lost a number of businesses. Along with a group of citizen volunteers, the committee worked together aggressively and successfully to bring additional jobs into Macedonia during that downturn. I volunteered to chair the annual Nordonia Hills Chamber of Commerce Expo Scholarship Committee in 2013, and I've continued that annually with a team of folks. We've raised over $6,000 for graduating Nordonia Hills seniors, and I'm, of course, a member of the Rotary Club here, and I was president in 2013-14. Our club is a sponsor of community projects and worldwide projects, including End Polio Now. And I was elected to Macedonia City Council at the end of 2013, and I served as the vice president and the finance chair for this city council in the past 2 years. As finance chair, I've led the effort to increase financial accountability and respond to resident priorities to invest in roads, stormwater controls, and park improvements. Council and administration have worked together to make that happen, and we've appropriated in the past year over $2.7 million for these investments without raising income taxes, and at the same time ensuring we have strong financial reserves, which we do. We have at this point about $2.2 million. The council has worked with the administration, voting with it 92% of the time on their requests. I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, because there's been some opinion raised about whether the council is working with the administration. We are. Some even have suggested that we don't have teamwork. Only in the Soviet Union is 100% agreement, something that involves teamwork. We have agreed the vast majority of the time. Where we've had disagreements, we have voted against the administration's recommendation to put an increased income tax on the ballot. We have voted occasionally, not always, but sometimes when incentives were offered to business that made no business sense. We've voted for increased employee time accountability through the use of computerized time clocks, and that was not an administration priority. We actually voted to make sure the trash contract went out for a competitive bid. That was not a recommendation of the administration, but we did get the best value when it did go out for bid. And we have ensured that the administration follows the government charter as best we can. We certainly made every effort to make sure that people's records belong to the people and that we can be open and accountable when we do business. As as Macedonia moves toward the future, I will support strong fiscal controls while investing in the priorities and needs of Macedonia residents for road repairs, stormwater controls, park improvements, some improvements in redevelopment on the corner of Highland and 8, because I believe that we need to redevelop that area. We need to greatly improve our responsiveness to resident service, particularly because a lot of times I've been told that they fall through the cracks. People complain about a problem and it falls through the cracks. We need to do much better in that way. And I'm self-financing my own campaign so that you'll have the most ethical, open, and resident-oriented administration in our history. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And our next speaker, candidate for mayor is Joe Migliorini. Joe?
Thank you, Dave. Lisa, thank you, and all of you Rotarians as well. Appreciate this opportunity to come here and address you. I was just thinking that it was probably some 35 years ago that I first had the opportunity to speak before the Rotary. That's how many years, obviously, I've been involved in politics in the city of Macedonia. Actually, a continuous resident, as we all know now, right, Mike?
I disagree.
38 years of residency in Ohio here, and especially Macedonia. But I need to say this to you guys because it's so important that I express this with regards to why Joe Migliorini is running for mayor. I started about 2 or 3 or 4 months ago, before I even made a decision, started getting calls from a lot of residents, a lot of community leaders from our various other communities. Just an overwhelming amount of people that were contacting me saying, we need you to come back. We see the city as very dysfunctional. We want you to come back. We want you to be our mayor again. As many of you may know, I was a 4-term consecutive mayor. And in 2001, I was on the transition team of the Summit County executive. And at that time, he continued to ask me to come down to the county and head up the Department of Development. And I kept saying, Jim, I'm not coming down. He continued to insist. After some time, I finally made the decision, and I said, okay, Jim, I'm coming down, but I'm only going to come down for 1.5 years. And at that time, after the 1.5 years, because that would have ended my term as mayor, I was going to retire. At the end of that period, he says, oh no, you can't leave yet, you got to stay. So I wound up staying another year, and then another year. So I wound up staying down there until 2005 when I retired. When I retired, I said, that's it, I'm going to be out of politics, I'm not going to do anything other than the fact that I am still the chair of the NOPEC Inc., which is obviously saved Northeast Ohio communities over $250 million in utility costs. But one of the other reasons that I'm running is that in this town, in Macedonia, I have, all 3 of my kids have their own home in Macedonia. I have 7 grandkids. I have an 8th on its way. My mother lives here, my mother-in-law, my brother, my sister-in-law, my nieces, my nephews. So I'm deeply rooted into Macedonia. And I don't see Macedonia heading in the right direction right now, unfortunately. I think we have to make a turn. We have to go back to where we were. I think we need to be a little bit more progressive. We need to have a better city government in operation. We have to stop this block vote of council being obstructionist of good government. And that's the reason that I am running again for mayor. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, at this time we're going to open it to the floor for any questions, and we're going to reverse the order. I'll have Joe respond first, and then Sylvia will respond second. And if you could keep your response brief, this way we can get in a couple of questions. First question. Yes, Paul.
I heard Joe mention that Macedonia wasn't heading in the right direction. And being new to the area, I'd like to know what he means and what you'd like to change, and then maybe Sylvia can comment on the same thing.
Well, good question, being a newcomer to the area. You know, as I travel through this, different areas and being involved in NOPEC, which is Northeast Ohio Public Energy, with 136 communities throughout Northeast Ohio with over 550,000 electric customers, I am involved with meeting and talking to mayors and other elected officials from all over. They look upon Macedonia like, what's going on in your community? It's embarrassment. And there's a lot of bickering going on. And there's, if you will, a darkness that follows our city right now. We need to remove that. We have a finance director who has been terminated by the mayor and not confirmed by council. He certainly should have been terminated by now. There are certainly 3 investigations that were done upon him. And this guy is sitting home making $100,000 a year, and the city needs a finance director. So while the allegations against him may have not risen to a level of illegal, they are certainly unethical. And as I read all 3 of those reports, and I suggest that everybody in here take the opportunity to read those reports, and you'll come away with a different feeling about it.
Let me just say, I think that the residents of the community want to have large investments in the roads, in stormwater repairing and control. They want improvements to our parks. They've all expressed that to me. And that's what we are doing as a council. Have we always agreed on everything? No. Here is something I'm going to say directly about this. The finance director followed the law and did not pay Mr. Joe Deemert, who is Mr. Migliorini appointee back from 1990, and he's still the law director. He followed what the auditor of state said to do. Mr. Deemert went on a campaign to try to remove the the finance director. So what you're seeing in terms of conflict is all generated by Mr. Deemert, and it's generated by a situation in which, in fact, the council was sued. The finance director has, in fact, been confirmed as being on the job. The finance director wants to be on the job. It's Mr. Deemert who has been preventing that. In fact, Mr. Deemert sued the council to try to change the council votes. And that on Wednesday, the decision came from Summit County Common Pleas. They have no basis for the suit, and the council was following the law. And Mr. Schwab, who wants to come back to work, is still the finance director. So if anybody's wasted money, it certainly hasn't been the council. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question back there.
Mr. Migliorini, you seem to be so interested in Mr. Schwab. He's had bills to any louder. Why have you been so motivated? Came to the mayor, and he self-confessed to taking basically theft in office on a multitude of occasions. He's got some obviously some things he received from contractors.
Could you step forward a little bit so other folks can hear the question?
Start over.
Speak up louder.
Start over.
Just trying to ask Mr. Migliorini why he's not so motivated by theft in office by Mayor Cookville and the things he received from contractors. But yet Mr. Schwab, who has, according to what we have known, he had good.
Cannot hear you.
Want to come and speak into the mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
My question is a multifaceted question. Mr. Migliorini here seems to be so motivated to think Mr. Schwab has done something wrong, as though he hasn't been convicted of anything wrongdoing, but yet our mayor has admitted to taking garbage He's also gotten stuff from contractors. But yet you're not concerned about that, but yet you're concerned about someone that's done nothing wrong. He's got good, according to what we know from the city, he's had good reviews. And all of a sudden, when he didn't pay the law department, all of a sudden now he's a bad guy. Now, you got to answer that, because I'll tell you what, we know that these gentlemen here.
Well, thank you, John, for the question. First of all, I'm not motivated to support or go against Schwab. I actually happen to like the guy. I didn't have anything against him. And as far as what the mayor has done, the mayor's not running. So the mayor's not an issue in front of me right now. And so I don't need to do anything with regards to the mayor. If the mayor has issues, they're going to be resolved in the process of whatever reviews that are going on against the mayor. All I can tell you, John, have you read all three of the reports?
Yes, I have.
You have. Okay, and what did you come away with, John?
He's not guilty of anything.
Not guilty of anything. So the affidavits, listen to me. So the affidavits that were signed by other department heads stating that if they didn't hire his son to the service department, that there would be retaliation against them and that they wouldn't get their vouchers approved and things of that nature. That you didn't read that in there, did you?
It doesn't make a difference to me. As long as we didn't.
Well, then, John, if it doesn't make a difference to you, then you're.
If the taxpayers didn't lose any money over it, that's an internal issue. The mayor has stolen from us, and it didn't concern you because that's one of your guys.
I'm not confronted with the mayor's situation. I'm confronted right now, if I'm elected mayor of this city, what to do with the SFOB and the
You have
finance
two
record.
charges against you.
Okay, well, thank you for responding to that, Sylvia. Would
I'm
you
going to
like
make a
to?
comment here because
1995.
let me just make one comment. The accusations that have been raised here by Mr. Migliorini were already put to bed because Mr. Schwab was the only person in the city government who agreed to a polygraph test. And that specific issue was addressed. And he, guess what, passed that polygraph test. And no one else wanted to take a polygraph. I asked them to do it because I wanted to clear it up for once and for all. Mr. Schwab agreed. It was no from those two department heads. So I'm just telling you, the real world is this. I believe in strong, independent, ethical government here, and we need to go to an environment where we have very clean audit reports, which were not the case when Mr. Migliorini was mayor. We had very bad audit reports. We had a finding for recovery. We had all kinds of problems with the audit reports. I invite you to look on the Auditor of State website. They're all out there. So, you know, it's not I'm making anything up. They're out there. And as far as the rest of the story, the only reason that someone is trying to besmirch Mr. Schwab is that he, in fact, followed the law, and Mr. Deemer, his good friend and attorney, doesn't like that. Thank you.
I'd like to thank both candidates for coming in. And if there's any other questions, just see them out there for the council. Okay.